I'm really happy to see you and to work on this stuff with you today. Again, I'm going to be working on from notes, so I apologize when I'm staring off into space. That's what I'm doing. I want to do a quick check-in from last week. Any physical problems, anything I want to know about that, like your feet hurt or your knees hurt or your shoulders hurt or your back in particular. Any problems that I should be aware of? If you're too shy to tell me on public, you can put a comment in the comments or email me. I think probably everybody has their mic on right now. This is a good time to leave your mic on so you can communicate with me. And I just wanted to have a quick reminder that this is a Zoom class. That means that when I'm standing back there demonstrating so that I'm far enough away you can see my feet, I cannot see you at all. So you're like smaller than a postage stamp on my screen. So please look around you right now, check your environment and make sure that it's safe. So no trip hazards, no fall down hazards, no whack yourself on the shins hazards, no children, no pets, other things you might trip over. I'll just check your environment because I can't see it. Please don't get hurt. If this is your first day off crutches because you strained your knee last week and I tell you to bend your knees, don't do it. Just smile and do something else. You can bend your knees next week when you're feeling better. If you need to leave before class is over, just like last time, please leave us a note. It helps me hold the space, lets us know that you didn't faint and fall off screen or because of something I said. Anyway, leave us a note. It's like bowing when you leave the dojo. So let's warm up, mostly with the same movements we did last week. And then we'll sit down and talk a little bit about today's topic. At the end of the class, I intend for this to be approximately an hour class. At the end, I'm hoping we'll have some time for discussion, feedback, or general comments. Okay, so let's stand up first and do some moving. So we're going to start like we did last week with moving. And you're going to move your ankles and your toes and find your toes and wiggle a little bit on the floor and rise up on the ball of your feet. And please use something to lean on if you like. If you've got a chair handy or some friendly object. What we're doing is we're waking our feet up and we're letting our bodies remind us where we are. Last week, we worked on finding our bodies from within our mind, so that our mind and our body could be more in harmony. This week, we're working on grounding ourselves into earth, and we're using our bodies to do that. I think one of the genius things of Shintaido is, to me, that we can use our bodies as a tool for connecting to other people, for connecting to the environment, for connecting to the spiritual, and for connecting to ourselves. And that's why I've been practicing all these years. It's very exciting to me. So you can do one foot and the other foot and feel all your foot bones. And if you work with a lot of senior citizens like I do, you'll find that fall hazards are a big deal for senior citizens, for anybody really. But the foot bones and the ankles are your first and second line of defense against a fall. And most people, as they get a little older and they get a little stiffer, the foot bones and the ankle bones stop moving very much. Also, we wear shoes so often. And people stop using their feet as a balance point. So then if they trip or they slip, the knees are the first point and the back is the second point. And if you use your feet, you've got all those little bones in the feet to be first, second, third, fourth, fifth points of catching yourself, and then all the wonderful bones in the ankle to pick up after that. And that means that you can use your knees and your back for further corrections, which it means your chance of getting down on the ground accidentally when you didn't want to are less. So particularly if you work with seniors, I find this really, really helpful. Imagine that you've got a towel. So you have this imaginary towel on here. You're reaching out and pulling it in with your toes and collecting it under the ball of your foot. So I count in Japanese because it has a lot of vowels. It's easier to pull out. And other foot out. Ich, ni, san, shi, go. You can see that I'm moving the arch of my foot a lot. Ni, san, shi, go. Other side. Ich, ni, san, shi, go. Okay. Now we're going to lift the toes, feel the ankle bones flex, feel your knees flex, feel your hips start to flex. And now we're going to do fingers, and you stretch your fingers. There's lots of ways to do that. We'll just start by letting it wiggle, kind of shake a little bit, shake your elbows and your arms up to the shoulders. Now stretch. Stretch. If your students are like my students, they tend to overdo things, so encourage them not to stretch too hard. This is a yogi tai, soft hand Shintaido, and there's no need to push. That's what we're after. All the thumb socket where it goes into the wrist, both hands, and again, this should not be a push. Just rubbing this muscle on at the base of the thumb. As I mentioned last week, that's usually the first place we start to get arthritis, so it's a great opportunity to relax that before arthritis starts happening. So now we're going to find the core muscles, and like I talked about last week, where I imagine a column of light that starts down at my abdominal floor, goes through my entire body. And the easiest way for me to connect with that, just personally, is to find the acupuncture meridian that comes up through the inside ankle bone on both sides and goes up through the abdominal floor into that column. And the column, for me, runs right in front of my backbone, right through the center of my body. Comes out through my shoulder blades, through my collarbone, and up on the other side. And my head lifts up as I do that. So, relaxing and a powerful for me to connect, particularly today, to connect down into the ground. Right. So, we're going to shift the weight so that it goes through one hip and then through the other. And then we're going to rise up, let that rise up through that column of energy. Bring up the top of your head. Let your eyes closed so they're half closed. Shoulders, let them roll back. Collarbone up, kind of float up. In. Breathe out. Very good. Hey, let's sit down and talk about our topics for this second class. Please go ahead and leave your microphone on in case you have any comments to share with me while we're talking about the focus of this class. Um, last last time, I told you that this spring I participated in branding exercise, a 2-month Shintaido branding initiative that was sponsored by SOA. And out of that came, we identified 2 core elements of Shintaido, what I call open hand and soft hand, and 3 martial arts elements, and that was Bojutsu, Karate, and Bukto. And the terms open hand and soft hand are our translations, particularly my translation, of the Japanese Kaiho-Tai and Yogi-Tai. And if you know some Japanese, you know that Kaiho-Tai and Yogi-Tai and open hand and soft hand are not, those are not literal translations. The Tai and Kaiho-Tai is not hand, it's body. But I'm a professional Japanese to English translator, and I tried to find the best term, and the best I came up with for Yogi-Tai, without writing a 30-page paper with footnotes, is soft hand Shintaido. But if you find something better, please tell me, because I don't think mine is the greatest. It's just the best I've been able to find. Just to give a really simple example, open hand looks basically this, and soft hand is usually something softer. It's less cutting and more massaging or moving gently. Sometimes it looks like open hand, not extraordinarily active. And it's a difference in the way the energy moves through the body. And most of us are quite familiar with open hand Shintaido. We know a lot of techniques that are open hand, and we've done a lot of open hand Shintaido. And we might know a few soft hand techniques, wakame, taikimai, or dancing with clouds. A little bit of the kumite that we do, but we don't have enough. If we want to start teaching, we don't have enough to build an entire class or a curriculum around. So this summer, after the branding initiative, Nancy Billias and I started working to develop an introductory soft hand Shintaido curriculum. And if you're interested in teaching a class like this one, we recommend a course of 10 classes. That seems to work really well for most YMCAs or colleges or churches, like where I teach, 10 senior citizen groups. 10 weeks is just about perfect. And what we've done here is we've created a detailed curriculum for the first 5 weeks, and then we assume that the second 5 weeks, the instructor would review the first 5 weeks and alter it specifically for their students in that specific class. And the curriculum is built around the 5 principles of Ten-Chi-Hitobito-Ware-Ittai, heaven, earth, others, self, unity. And it's also built around the 5 sounds of Tenshin Goso. So I mentioned this last time, but I just want to emphasize we don't consider this the standard curriculum. We tried to create something that a new teacher could use pretty much out of the box, and that would also be a useful resource for other more experienced instructors. You can take a piece or 2 pieces, whatever is helpful for your students. And we expect that everybody is going to modify this for their own classes, for their own Keigo experience, and for their own teaching style. And if you try it, please let us know how it works. And please especially tell us things that you find that work better or that you find that didn't work at all. All of this is helpful information for the rest of us. Our first lesson, last week, we focused on ware, or self. We were connecting between um, um, what's inside us in our brains and what's inside us in our bodies, centering, reaching in. And this class is focused on chi, or earth. So it's grounding, reaching down, and drawing energy up from the earth. And by the way, you probably know that the Chinese concept of qi, that we call qi energy, is not the same as the qi that we're talking about right now. It's a completely different character. This is earth. The Chinese qi is pronounced ki energy in Japanese, and it's a very different concept. So let's start with the same exercise that we used in class 1. But we're going to emphasize reaching down into the earth, and we'll use our voice as an extension of what our bodies are doing and how we connect with each other. So if you would please mute your microphones and stand up. And Connie or Sarah or both of you, just go ahead and leave your microphone on so that you can give me feedback if you need it. So last time we talked about the bow and mukso, and we reviewed the shape of the bow in Japan, and mukso, the concept of quiet mind. So the word for in Japanese for bow is rei, and so you're going to start with rei. So stand up straight, like rei. Okay, so last time we did mukso, and we started it from here. We reach out, right hand on top, hands turn together, left hand inside the right, thumb inside the right hand, back to about below your ribs, and down to below your belly button. So from the side, down, hands cross, turn, left thumb inside the right hand, down to the belly button. And just gentle, soft hands here. One more time with voice. The sound is Om. So reach up, right hand on top. Release your hands and stand your mukso. Very good. Okay. And last time we said we used our movements to find out where our bodies were in space. This time we're using them to find out where our feet are. So we're going to let your feet kind of shift. No more than hip width. Ankles shifting, toes shifting. Ich, ni, san, shi, go, rok, pitch, hach. Wonderful. feel the energy just in the air around you and from the earth, and let that come up to your shoulders. Let's relax your collarbone. Ni, san, shi, go, up, ich. Very good. Okay, so there's the collarbones. A little closer, you can see them. The collarbones are about the middle of your back, the shoulder blades are about the middle of your back. They move up across the ribs, and they move down across the ribs. And we want to let that movement happen. And if you're like me, this last week has not been the least stressful week of your life, most likely. So we're probably just a little bit tense. We've been watching a lot of news on TV, and we're not quite as relaxed as maybe we'd like to be. So I want you to find your collarbones. Move your fingers along the collarbone. You can actually bring your fingers on either side of your collarbone and let the pectoral muscles relax. And then the other side. Okay. And moving a little bit lower on the ribs. We're using our voice some today, but if we don't breathe, it's not going to work. So don't forget to breathe. Like a big sigh. When we're tense, the muscles hold carbon dioxide. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to let go of the carbon dioxide when the blood comes in with more oxygen, and so the oxygen and the carbon dioxide get replaced. But when they're tightened up for one reason or another, then the blood can't flow as easily, so the carbon dioxide gets stuck, and the oxygen can't come in. There's no way for it to get there. So as you relax, your oxygen is coming in, the carbon dioxide is hitting your blood, and that is your natural trigger to yawn. So if you find yourself yawning, don't worry about it. I'm not going to take it personally. It's a natural thing. When you start to relax and the blood begins to do its job and the body begins to do its job, yawning is the way we get more oxygen in so that we can get the carbon dioxide out. Okay. So back to the feet. Shoulders up, shoulders down. One foot, other foot, one foot, other foot. Okay. And let that go up to your knees. Your knees are relaxing. And up to your hips. Very good. Okay. Great. Everybody's favorite thing. Let us do a foot massage. So put a foot up where you can get to it. And I will see if I can get mine up where you can see it. And I'm going to start by pulling toes. Ich, ni, san, shi, go. Ich, ni, san, shi, go. Ich, ni, san, shi, go. That's the middle toe. Ich, ni, san, shi, go. And little pinky toe. Ni, san, shi, go. Very good. Okay. Arch of the foot. There you go. Rub the arch. Ni, san, shi, go, look, shich, hutch. Okay. And imagine that your foot is a soft hand towel. You're squeezing it out very gently. Right dish towel. Ich, ni, sa, shi, go, look, shich, hutch. Okay. And work around your ankle with your fingers. Ich, ni, sa, shi, go, look, shich, hutch. Here and up your leg. Ich, ni, sa, shi, go, look, shich, hutch. Very good. Other foot. So, hitting toes. Ich, ni, sa, shi, go. That's a little better. There we go. Ich, ni, sa, shi, 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 go. Okay. And the sole of the foot. Ich, ni, sa. I'm actually pushing with my thumbs into the arch. Ich, hutch. Ich, ni, sa, shi, go. Look, shich, hutch. This part of the foot right in front of the heel, there's a big muscle there, and that is, I find if that muscle is relaxed, it's a lot easier for me to ground into the ground. It's a lot easier for me to balance and also to get my energy going down into the ground. So make sure to work on that. And then soft squeezing. Okay, and around the ankle bone. So, shi, look, shich, hutch, ich, ni, sa, shi, go, look, shich, hutch, and all the way up the leg. Ni, sa, shi, go, look, shich, hutch. Very good. Okay. So let's go back to toe work. But this is really slow, and it's hard to do it. It's like impossible to do it too slowly. So we're going to go up and down. You probably feel all your leg muscles kicking in, all the way up to your hip muscles and your core muscles. Up. Up. Very good. And you can, if you want to, you can turn your feet out in Musubidachi, and if it seems appropriate for your students, go that way too. Up. And you can feel the different angle of your hip socket when you do that. So it's a little easier to find the core muscles and get them waking up. 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 Very good. Shake it out just a little bit. And in general, we want to have quite a bit of the weight on the ball of the foot. Again, that will help fall prevention, among other things, if your students are of a practical bent and they want to know what this is good for. If you, let's try some shallow knee bends, unless, as I said, you just got off crutches and your knees don't want to. So you can hold on to the wall itch, and straighten, knee, straighten, sun, straighten, shi, straighten. It's a good idea to let your butt go out to the back. Rok, shich, hach. And you can feel the connection from the inside of your ankle all the way up through the knee, right along this acupuncture meridian, all the way into your pelvis. And at the pelvis, that line of energy goes into the body, and then it kind of comes up through the body. So when you're standing up, you'll feel that energy go right up, that column of energy up to the top of your head. Okay? Very good. So now we know where the feet are. We're going to go down to the ground through our feet and do our centering exercise. Let your body relax. Let your feet reach down. Imagine as you breathe in this small ball of energy in your pelvis, right below your belly button, right at the tendon. And as you breathe in, it gets bigger. And you breathe out, it gets smaller. And breathe in. And breathe out. In. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Gradually, that ball of energy gets large enough, it fills up your koshi, fills up your whole pelvis, and it starts expanding both directions. It goes down and it goes up. As it goes down, you can feel it pass down through your hips. So your hips, as that energy passes down, your hips are going to open up. The energy goes down that line into the ground, down towards your knees. Meanwhile, because your feet are into the ground and your energy, your feet are feeling the energy of the earth, the energy from the earth is coming up. To feel it come up to this meridian here, up into your knees. So reach down to the ground, and energy comes up. And they meet somewhere around the knees. It's not a big deal where. All right, go to your fingers. You breathe in. Energy is coming through your hands, through your fingers, through your hands, through your wrists. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe out. Meanwhile, the energy from your tendon is getting bigger. It's filling up your upper abdominal cavity, filling up your ribs, reaching up to your shoulder girdle. Breathe in. Let that fill you up. Let the energy run up from your fingers, through your elbows, and your shoulders. come on back just for a minute. Move your feet, move your hands, shrug your shoulders. Stick your tongue out if you feel like it. That's a great way to relax the throat because the tongue is actually quite a large muscle and it roots right around your voice box. So that's the base of the tongue, and if you stick your tongue out really far, it gets nice and stretched, and all the tension that is stuck in it from not saying things that you really wanted to say gets relaxed. Helps breathing, helps my general throat and head and neck relaxation. Okay, so get quiet, breathe in from your tongue in, fill your whole body up, energy comes up, energy comes through your fingers, it all runs together, breathe in, breathe out. One more time. Breathe in, breathe out. Very good. So, from here, we're going to go into the hands overhead and scanning down movement from Taio. The hands come up like this and scan down. And we will end with the stand your ground movement where your hands are either out like this, or the second time we do it, we'll do it with the fists. So it's really interesting to see if your body responds differently to the open hand, this soft hand feeling, or to this fist feeling. It's a soft fist. It's not really a punching fist, but it's definitely a fist shape. And most of us, when we make a fist, we have an emotional response to that. When we've done Shintaido for so much, you may not yourself, but it's a very good chance that your students will. So you might want to talk to them about how they feel about fists versus open hand, and how they can change how they want to that to be in their lives. So we will just the really interesting thing for me about the idea of the fist is that it doesn't necessarily mean fight. It can mean engaged, and it can mean that I'm ready to stand with my community, which means that I have a community, which is really an important part of Shintaido for me. That I can stand my ground with my community. So let's do that. Gently reach up. Left hand over right. Scan down. Past your head, past your neck, past your chest, down to the ground, down to the base of your body, and your stance. Time. Up. Scan down. fists here. Understand it's just a little. Very good. All right, so we'll finish with, we started Ten-Chi-Hitobito, we did last time, and we did Gauguin. So this time we're going to do Ten-Chi-Hitobito off, starting from and then we'll do the Gauguin movement after that, and then we'll finish the class. So I think what we're after in this kind of movement is we're looking for a kind of open stillness, especially when we're closing down, closing the class, bringing everything to a center and a close. And we want attentiveness without anticipation. So we're totally here. We're not expecting, we're not looking for the next thing. We're just here. And that's a little bit easier to say than it is to do. But I find my students find it really valuable, even though, of course, it's not quite as easy as it sounds. In particular, some of your students, if you're working on Zoom, and you may be in the same situation, your location isn't optimal. Maybe you have some interruptions, like cell phones ringing, or the cats, or children, or noise, or you never know when you're going to be interrupted. And that's difficult, but it's also an opportunity for us because the world is like that. So it gives us a chance to connect with the stillness that is under everything. And our students too, they can connect with that stillness that is under all of the distractions and all of the noise and the monkey brain chatter that goes on in the world around us. And I really think we all particularly need that stillness right now, because it's wrapped around the foundation of the energy that we're connecting to. And the genius of Shintaido is that we have these physical tools that help us get to a connection with that space without having to talk about it. It's just very cool. So we'll do to and then so and then to Mokso and Rei. So reaching out. And down. Standard hours at a time. So we'll add A in, I think, the next of our sessions. O. And O. Time. O. O. Release. Let your mind get quiet. Let's just do a brief moment. So your meditation. So. So yame. And to the Zoom group. Hey. Great. That is part 2.
Can I ask a question, Lee?
Certainly.
So the breathing, I'm thinking of the flow of this class. We started with, that sense of the ball of light in the pelvis, expanding on the inhale and contracting on the exhale. I'm assuming we're continuing that feeling through the physical, the ah and the o, but you didn't really talk about that. So I just wanted to confirm, are we still continuing with that? Or maybe you talked about it last class, but I didn't hear you mention it this class.
It actually hadn't occurred to me. That's really interesting. What do you think? Well,
I was trying to do it, but the pace, the movements are quicker than the breath. So I was having trouble keeping up my breathing, my imagery and the physical movements together. They sort of didn't stay on beat, or however you want to say it.
Right. My own experience in Shintaido is one of the things I loved about Shintaido when I first started practicing, and I still love about it, is it's not very verbal. We did stuff, and then we did it again, and then we did it again, and then the teacher would say, no, don't do it like this, do it like that. And that was it. There wasn't any philosophy. One of the things that I find when I'm teaching a yogi-tai, a soft hand Shintaido class to beginners, is that the people I work with are not going to spend years studying intensive Shintaido 3 times a week. They just, their lives aren't shaped like that. So I kind of have to help them find some Shintaido experience, especially some of the experience that I had from Kaiho-Tai. And I sometimes use words to do that with more or less success. But personally, I think there's enough. When you're just standing, or you're just sitting, or you're just doing meditation, sometimes I think a little guidance is a help. And that's why I use the image of the expanding ball, because it's what I'm trying to do is get the inside of the body to move, and connect. It involves being almost stationary. When we're doing ah and oh, I don't think it's probably necessary to visualize a lot of stuff, because you're already moving. Does that make any sense? You've got the breath, you've got the hands, you've got the everything's going. So you don't really need the assistance of this inner voice saying, okay, now expand the light in your stomach. Just to summarize, Dan, my own personal experience is that the reason I do that imaging work, because to me, one of the values of Shintaido is I don't have to think about words a lot. And then when I teach, I end up using words a lot. But the reason that I use words is to kind of help my students fill in the gaps, because they don't know how to meditate. If they're standing still, they're probably going to start thinking about whether they turn the kitchen stove off or something. They just don't have a lot of experience. And if they can have something to hold them in, that energy, that energy feeling is helpful for them because they're standing still. But when we're doing Awazoto Taiso, we're already moving. So I don't think you need to worry about your energy because that's part of the genius of the more Kaiho Tai movements is that the energy comes of itself. And so I think you're doing just fine. If you feel it when you're standing still by consciously thinking of a ball of energy, that ball of energy doesn't go away just because you're moving. All you have to do is remind yourself that it's there.
Yeah, I mean, I find these, well, and maybe, again, this is probably the wrong way to think about it. I come from a karate background, and I have a keen memory of, an ippon kumite, just like we would do in Shintaido karate, and a senior in front of me, who I consider very friendly, but very formidable, and looking for what feeling should I have when I'm in that, that preparedness position awaiting his, attack.
Right.
And so I'm finding this, again, this is probably a stupid way to think about it, but I'm finding these exercises very useful for trying to access the feeling I think I should be feeling, like you said about not looking forward to something or preparing for something, just being there. And that's the feeling I get from him, this particular senior I'm thinking of, who, and I'm rambling, but I'm finding these exercises very interesting. So I appreciate your explanation.
I think if you go down into the ground through your feet, you'll find that he's down there too.
He feels that way, incredibly solid and quiet. And I'd
Yeah.
like to, maybe these are a good way to try to access that feeling.
You might, when you're working on your feet, you might want to check your collarbone and make sure that you're light and floating here. A lot of times in Japan, they talk about upper light, lower heavy, lower. It's like the energy is very dense in your lower body, and the upper part is just completely relaxed. Yes, do that. So let's stand up. And let your feet sink down into the ground. Reach out. Release. I'm also. I'm also Yame. Enter the group. Wait. Thank you. Honey, could you stay on for just a minute?